Hey everyone, happy Monday. I'm going to just adjust this ever so slightly. Right, Be the Cake Live, it's Monday. Let's talk about the energy of this week. Now, I already did a video on this for my TikTok channel, profile, whatever the fuck you want to call it, yesterday. And what was coming through loud and clear for this week is about trusting your feelings. It is about making sure that you are actually tuning into those feelings. And one of the things that was coming through loud and clear was making sure that you are capable of tuning into your feelings. Like, one of the things that was coming out yesterday was understanding that when you're numbed out all the time because of various different addictions, dopamine, you could loosely term them as dopamine addiction and various other things. So, whether it's social media or too much TV or drinking or smoking or whatever the fuck it is. And I'm not saying that you should never do these things. I am not, I have never been that person that says that you should never do these things, because as I keep saying to people, you are here to have the human experience, which is the whole 9 yards. Okay, but it's important to understand that it's very, very difficult to even understand what you're feeling when you're numbed out all the time. Okay, and by numbing out all the time, I mean, if you're constantly looking for somewhere to put your attention so that you don't feel things, then you don't feel things. Trusting your feelings means taking the time to go inside, to actually go into your internal world and to tune in to what's going on in your body, what's going on in your psyche, what's going on with your emotional state, what's going on in relationship to different things. It's really, it's not difficult to do. It's very difficult to do if you have erected the equivalent of a glass wall between you and your feelings, because you are constantly kind of jacked up on social media. I'm well aware of the irony of me saying this on social media, on YouTube, talking about this stuff, but at the same time, I do feel like YouTube, from the point of view of it being sort of a platform where you can actually go for informative videos, it's not somewhere where you necessarily, and you can correct me in the comments if you like, YouTube isn't a place where people, generally speaking, scroll that much. I see it as a place, and it's certainly, when I look at YouTube, I look at it as a place to come to actually find specific bits of information, whereas I think some of the other platforms like TikTok or whatever, and yes, I have a TikTok, and Instagram, so on and so forth, are places where you could say doom scrolling is almost actively encouraged. The algorithm encourages it. Everything about the way it's organized encourages spending as long as possible on the platform and scrolling and just getting lost in it. So essentially, not to go off at too much of a tangent, this week you do need to be tuning into what it is that you're feeling in certain things, and taking the time to understand where that stuff, where your feelings are coming from. Are the feelings that you're having related to things that have happened in the past, to trauma, to what we could call negative karma? Because in actual fact, if you take a proper look at negative karma, it's actually, essentially, it is an accumulation of what I'm going to call negative emotional energy that could be, in the case of generational trauma and so on and so forth. In fact, this is actually far too far forwards at the moment. Generational trauma is essentially where your DNA and your RNA is actually still holding stuff from negative emotional experiences that your ancestors had, that basically got embedded in at a cellular level, which you've inherited because it gets passed down through. And if you're a generational curse breaker, then you are the one who has, whether you realize it on a human level or not, actually opted in to come in and clear this stuff up in this lifetime. And if you have had a lot of past life stuff, that will also come through. I'm going to say this right now. If your DNA is activated, once your DNA is activated, there is a process that you have to go through. And this is something that I take my clients through, especially in the Magic Zone group, where you clear up all of the stuff from other lifetimes. There's a process. So when people just have a DNA activation and think that's the end of it, it doesn't quite work like that. If you've had plenty of lifetimes on this planet, your spiritual DNA is going to be carrying quite a lot of stuff that might need sorting out. And your physical human DNA from the ancestral side of things is probably going to need sorting out too. Okay, and so part of the DNA activation process, when it's done properly, is in actual fact clearing up, repairing. There's a whole bunch of things that go with it. Okay, and it brings you into greater consciousness. But the reason why DNA activation isn't necessarily for everyone at any given point in time is because you have to be dedicated to the journey of actually sorting this stuff out and stepping into higher consciousness, higher self-awareness, and so on and so forth, in order to do the work, to own your magic properly, to own, to really own the power of your extended broadband connection, as you could call it, in order to be able to step forwards and basically realize your full potential as a quantum being, a quantum being who manifests and creates. You can't do any of this from the position of see no evil, hear no evil, and being in a space of denial about things, basically. So yeah, interesting that this wants to come out talking about this week's energy and kind of in a longer format. But yeah, this is essentially where we're at. When it comes to understanding how you're feeling and how you're recognizing the frequencies that you are interplaying with in any given moment, awareness, the ability to be present enough to discern how you're feeling, the sensitivity to be able to discern how you're feeling, and the awareness of how to work with that is actually all part and parcel of the same thing. So, if you're watching this is an invitation to you to actually kind of decide that you are going to step into that. Perhaps if you've been led to this and you don't usually see things on my channel, maybe now is the time where you're going to be kind of realizing that maybe there's a calling from your soul that you need to actually step forwards into greater ownership of your power. And with that, with great power comes great responsibility, as the saying goes. It is, when you decide to take responsibility for everything that you're experiencing, that's when you experience true power. But in order to actually be able to take responsibility for everything, that requires for you to stop burying your head in the sand, so to speak. Okay, so having said all of that, alongside all of this, for this week's energy comes the understanding. There's something I want to add in here. Again, something I've already said on TikTok. I'm going to say it here too. If you are wanting to clarify where you're at with anything, if you're feeling heavy, dense, foggy, kind of offish about stuff, and you're not sure whether it's just a trauma response, an old fear, or whether it's actually genuinely your intuition that's firing up, what you can do is you can say, Spirit, I want you to give me the highest possible perspective on whatever the situation is at hand, okay? And then take time to allow that to percolate, and then get your journal out, okay? If you have a journal, or just any old notepad will do, and free write on the subject at hand and see what guidance wants to come through. That guidance will be from your higher self and from your spirit team, okay? If you are working directly with your higher self and your spirit team, which you're doing by saying, Spirit, I want you to remembering that actually that spirit is loving and spirit wishes to help you, and spirit actually takes instructions all the fucking time from you, whether you realize it or not. when you actually start to consciously interact with spirit in this way, realizing that you're talking to your own spirit, your higher self, and to the spirit team of guides that are around you, and there may be angels in there, there may be ancestors and so on and so forth. You can address them individually if you like, you can just lump it as spirit, okay? You are then in a space where you can open up the channel to bring through guidance from your own higher consciousness and from the consciousness that's attached to that in order to be able to see a way through, okay? And this is something I really want to underline. Like, a lot of my work is around teaching people how to work with energy, but like the primary part of it is actually teaching people and mentoring people in how to actually trust themselves and listen to themselves. Yeah, this is something that is, I'd say, in relatively short supply still in the world. There's a lot of people who spend the whole time deferring to outside advice. I personally believe that even if one is giving a reading, okay, as an oracle myself, as a guide, as an intuitive, and so on and so forth, my job, if I give a reading to someone, is always to help them to empower themselves on actually stepping into a greater awareness of how they can direct their own lives and how to listen to themselves, okay? If there's any reader that you ever interact with out there who is appearing to try and take your power and your autonomy away and put you in a state of disempowerment and in some kind of weird hierarchical relationship with them where you're kind of putting them on a pedestal, run a mile. This is something I'll say right now, because those people do not have your best interests at heart. What you want to be doing is working with people who encourage you to own your own power, okay? And understand that you do not need gurus. You can work with people who are co-creative and collaborative, who are fun to work with, but working with people who put themselves on pedestals and put themselves above you and tell you that they're the master of da-da-da-da-da and you need to listen to what they say. Yeah, there's been a lot of that on this planet. It's the time of that is over. The time of that is over, basically. So, you know, I feel like I'm here to underline that right now. And I just want to add into this, like, you're going to see over the next few weeks probably a lot of people talking about Mercury retrograde and this and eclipses and blah, 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 blah. You are so powerful that provided you understand how to work with your magic, and I would suggest that if you're seeing this, now is the time to start looking at how you do that. And if you require support in that, looking at people who can give you the support with that, okay, whether it's me or someone else. Basically, you are so powerful that although these systems are very fucking useful, all of these divination systems, they are the map, they are not the territory. They have never been the territory. And if you place too much power into any system, you will end up basically screwing up as a result of it, because of the fact that you are once again placing your power outside of yourself. Systems are useful provided you are not placing all of your power in them rather than where it should be, which is in you. So yeah, just wanted to underline that one. Having said all of that, I will probably be back at some point later on this week. Probably not in a live format, probably operating from video format next time, because it feels like I think I'm going to be topping out probably one live stream a week on here. If you want to catch me live on here, then Mondays at 3:30 is the time to do it, okay, or 3:30 or roughly thereabouts UK time. The rest of the time it's going to be videos. I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. Bye for now.